Hey, it's Adrian. Just before we get you to this episode, do me a favor and head over to pageantlaunch.com. We are starting the world's first dedicated pageant review site to make the pageant industry safe, transparent, and fair. Three things that I know it is most of the time, but it's not like that all of the time. So head over to pageantlaunch.com, enter your email address, it's completely free, and let's get you to this episode. What's up, guys? It's Adrian from the Pageant Project. Sorry, there's a cockatoo down there and I'm just like watching him. My special guest for tonight is Meghan Kenney, who is/was, I can never work out the tense, Miss Grand New Zealand 2017. And I get the feeling a few other things as well. But Meg, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Is this a reasonable time for you? Because I know some of your interviews are like 6 a.m. or some other ungodly time.
What? This is very, very decent of you. It's 7 p.m. I'm very unused to doing interviews at such a civilized hour. I mean, I even have, I'm even enjoying myself a little bit. But you're the first Kiwi that I've had on. And for those, I've got a huge UK audience. So we'll start off with non-pageant stuff. Can you describe the relationship that Kiwi...
Oh no, all right. I've lost you for a second there. You're asking for me to describe my relationship with Kiwis and someone, and I'm gonna guess you might be asking me about Kiwis and Australians, given that you are an Aussie. And if it's not the question, I'm guessing that it's the question. So I could be completely off base, and people who did hear your question are going to think that I'm talking about something very random. But Kiwis and Aussies are like always place, especially like when we're traveling sometimes. Now it's much better. People always know that New Zealand is its own country, but every now and then you get like a blank face and you have to say, it's the one that's by Australia. And then people figure it out. And we also get left off of world maps a lot. We launched like a tourism campaign recently that was like put New Zealand on the map, because you would go around the world and you would get this beautiful world map, like you see them as decals up on walls and cafes and stuff, and there is never a New Zealand. So there is like a love-hate rivalry with the New Zealand and Australians, I think. Like, I don't think any of us actually hate Australians, and I like to think Australians don't actually hate us. But yeah, I think I've lost Adrian completely. He said that his Wi-Fi was not having a good time at the moment. Hi. I'm assuming the next question is going to be asking me about my actual pageant history. So like you said, I was Miss Grand New Zealand in 2017. So the system I competed in to get that is, in New Zealand, we kind of like how the UK Power Pageant has like a few different titles that you can get, that you can win. I don't know, I think it's changed a couple times, but there was like the big one, which was Miss International UK, and then there was Miss Grand and Miss Intercontinental. Oh, we got you back.
Do you miss me?
Oh, I don't know if I answered the question you asked me, but I guessed what your question was and I just spun a yarn, so...
Okay, all right. Guys, I'm just going to apologize now. I was telling Meg before we jumped on, my internet is having the same issues that I had a couple of weeks ago. If I drop out again, I would jump on my mobile and just use mobile data, but this has better bandwidth, so hopefully it stays. So Meg, what did you say? You'll have to catch me up on my own interview.
You were asking me, you said it wasn't pageant related, and you were asking me about Kiwi's relationship, and then you cut off. And so I
With
guessed,
Aussies?
Yes,
Okay.
I guessed that. I answered your question, don't worry, yeah.
Okay, so how much crack did you give us Aussies?
I didn't. I said that it was...
That was your chance!
Well, I think and I hope I'm right, but I think it's a love-hate in the fact we don't actually hate Aussies, and I hope Aussies don't actually hate us.
No,
I think a lot of our beef comes from people thinking New Zealand is part of Australia, and like New Zealand getting left off of world maps, and if people want to find out where you are, you go, oh, the one that's by Australia. So
you think you guys get it hard. Imagine how it feels to be a Tasmanian.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rough time out here in Oceania if you're not Australia. So
you haven't told everyone. You're being too kind. Us Australians, we like to steal everything that's New Zealander and we claim that it's ours. Russell Crowe, Pavlova. Yeah. What else have we stolen?
There was a brief debate about whether we have some singers. I know there was a couple of headlines that took Lorde as Australian. Like, Lorde grew up in the North Shore of Auckland. She is a Kiwi. Yeah.
So, yeah, us Aussies just steal everything that's New Zealander and everyone believes us. Because
yeah, you have a louder voice. You have a big voice if you say it's yours.
So that is the relationship between Aussies and Kiwis. Love, hate, yeah, it's all in good jest, though. I mean, I think Aussies and Kiwis, I mean, you tell me, like, Aussies and Kiwis, I think are fairly similar. I've worked with a lot of Kiwis, and I know a fair few. We're fairly similar in that we don't take things too seriously, right? Would that be fair?
Yeah, and I think one of the best things is while we travel, you can pick out a Kiwi or an Aussie accent like a mile away. And we could be anywhere in the world and you hear that accent and you're like, hey, are you from Oz? I mean, like, you get friends for a couple of days while you're traveling because they're so nice. They're always keen to just like be mates while you're like traveling the world, and like, yeah, it's really nice because they're always really friendly and they're always down for a laugh. Like, you can have some very good banter and they're not going to get like worked up or angry at you.
I think that's really true. Just speaking to a lot of people internationally, whenever they're traveling, if they meet up with Aussies, it's always a good time. They always become friends, and it's no drama. So I imagine that Kiwis are the same. But I mean, you mentioned traveling. Do you want to tell everyone where you are at the moment? Because you're not in Kiwi land at the moment.
No, I'm not. So I'm currently in Istanbul. I have been traveling.
That's not part of New Zealand, by the way. That's Istanbul in Turkey.
That's in Turkey.
No, not in Istanbul in New Zealand.
I've been traveling for kind of like 18 months now. There's this classic Kiwi rite of passage that everyone does, and I think a lot of Australians do it too. You can get a 2-year work visa for the UK very easily. So we all get our 2-year work visas, we go to the UK, and we go there to work. And I have not done a lot of the work part of my 2-year visa in the UK. Last winter, I backpacked through Eastern Europe, so like Russia, Ukraine, Lithuania, Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, like literally the entire eastern bit of Europe. We did all of that over winter. And then
during their winter?
Oh, yeah. We've been up to... Wow. The wildest thing we've ever done is in Russia, we flew into St. Petersburg and we caught a 26-hour train all the way up to the Arctic Circle, like the northernmost city in the world. And it was during their polar night. So the sun didn't rise for 2 months. And we were on this very Bundy train. Like, it was the cattle class, like the hardcore Russians were drinking vodka at 6 a.m. They were like eating their dried fish.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a sleeper train. So you're like sleeping on this train. And then we got to Murmansk, which is like this biggest, very, very Soviet city. It was, and we were there for a week, and it was so cool. It was the wildest and weirdest thing that I've done.
It'd be worse than cool. It'd be freezing. It was
negative 20 degrees, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that got, because you were in the UK, I guess that got you prepared for UK weather, because by comparison, UK weather actually would have seemed nice.
Tropical,
and you can't say that about many places. What possessed you, and I mean this in a good way, but what possessed you to backpack through Eastern Europe? Because in my mind anyway, having not done it, that seems to me like really off the beaten trail. So to backpack it, you must obviously not be worried about slumming it a little bit, having some creature comforts. What possessed you to go for it?
I think you kind of have my answer in your question. It was off the beaten track. So everyone goes to Europe and they all go to Paris, and they all go to Spain, and they go to Italy, and you see all the same people going to all the same places. But no one ever goes to Russia, probably because the visa is very hard. But, you know, no one goes to Russia or Lithuania or Latvia or spends time in Bulgaria or Moldova and don't go to Moldova.
Eastern
That's
Europe
the only
in general.
one I don't recommend.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, because maybe some places it's not, especially if you're traveling alone. If you're a young woman, you probably don't want to go to all of the places.
Well, I travel with my boyfriend, so yeah, he actually got us in more trouble than I did. He, very sweet, soft man, but he has these Maori tattoos on his body.
Right.
And I guess when you're in a part of the world where people don't really have tattoos unless they're kind of part of like a mafia or something like that.
Or they've been in jail.
So we got stopped at borders twice while traveling. One was at 3 a.m. on the Russian-Ukraine border. And Matt has 2 passports, and we're in this big bus full of people, and we're holding everyone up because he's handed in his passport. They're all speaking in Russian to each other. They're going in and out of these back rooms, pulling out more people, like looking him up. And then we're like, this is not good. And then they end up asking questions like, do you know Edward Snowden? And there was a bit of a language barrier breakdown here. And Matt was like, yeah. And I looked at him and I was like, and he's like, yeah, I know of him.
In the news?
Yeah, like,
I don't know him personally.
But Matt's like, yeah, I know him. And they're like,
that's the wrong answer.
Yeah, I was like, no.
Wrong answer.
So I'm like sitting around the corner. I'm like, no, we don't know him. And then Matt got out his 2 passports. So I think the issue fell on which passport he had used to get in versus which passport he was using to get out, something like that.
Okay, right.
But yeah, that's not what you want at like 3 a.m. in the middle of a random border in Russia.
I don't want it at any time.
No.
I don't want it at any time of my life. Getting pulled over at a Russian border, being asked if I know Edward Snowden and saying yes. Yeah. I know.
It's not a good
take
one.
2.
Yeah,
I don't want. Well, how many? Okay, so I'm genuinely curious, as someone who's not gone to Russia but has always been fascinated by it, because I used to coach tennis, and back in the day and still to now, a lot of the best players in the world come from Russia. So what is it like going particularly through that ex-Soviet bloc? Is it, as someone who doesn't speak Russian and obviously doesn't look Russian, is it safe? Is it doable? Like, do you have any tips about it? Because I would still love to do it.
Yeah. So my biggest one to this is the stereotypes are so wrong. Like, I went into Russia assuming, don't smile, don't talk to people unless they're talking to you, get out of people's way. But people were so nice. And when I say so nice, I mean go out of their way nice. When we were trying to catch the train in St. Petersburg, the Cyrillic alphabet, which is what they use in Russia, is so difficult to wrap your head around. And I ended up learning it a bit better because a lot of the countries in Eastern Europe use the Cyrillic alphabet. But sorry, we've lost Adrian again, but I'm just going to continue telling my story. And we just couldn't figure out the platform, and then the platform did come and we couldn't find our carriage, and no one spoke English, but they were all trying to pass us on to other people and literally walking us around trying to find which train was ours. And then even up in Murmansk. So Murmansk was, it was purely built to be like a Soviet stronghold. It was... they had these like atomic icebreakers, and it was their only port access I think they could defend, just because it was in the wilderness. Like, no one can survive up there apart from the very hardcore Russians. And so yeah, even up in... Oh, are you back on your mobile data?
Okay, so sorry about that again. I've got
fine.
my mobile up, and when the mobile's working, I'll use the mobile. And when it's not when my computer's not working, I'll use this. And when my computer starts working again, I'll go back to the computer because obviously it's better quality. So sorry, I really wanted to hear that story. So tell me what I missed out again.
Basically, the Cyrillic alphabet was really hard to figure out at first. So that's the alphabet they use in Russia and Bulgaria and a lot of Eastern Europe. At first, we were calling it the Russian alphabet because, the Russians say it's their alphabet. And then Bulgarians say it's their alphabet because Cyril came from Bulgaria. But then everyone claims the alphabet to be their own. So just call it the Cyrillic alphabet if you're wanting to be safe in every country you're in. But yeah, we couldn't figure it out. We couldn't find our train. There were so many things we couldn't do. And even people who didn't speak English were going out of their way to help us. And we're like... They were getting off, they were meant to be leaving the train station, and they would turn around and help guide us to where they thought we had to be. And they were talking to each other. In Russian, and then trying to translate, using Google Translate to try and show us what they were saying as well. And yeah, even up in Murmansk. So Murmansk was a purpose-built Soviet city for the war. It was their defendable port and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, even up there where no one spoke English, like no one. The whole time we were there, there wasn't a single tourist. They get some Chinese tourists because it's quite easy to get between those two countries. But even then, we saw like 2 tourists. And so there was no one that looked like us, no one who spoke our language. But everyone was so nice. Like they were just stoked that we were there as well. You know, they were like, "Wow, thank you." You know, like thank you for wanting to come to our part of the world and learn about it.
I got to say, I've never actually thought about a stoked Russian before.
Yeah,
because the stereotype is always they're kind of grumpy. They're I don't know. They're drunk. I mean, you already talked about.
Well, they were drunk. Yeah.
Oh well, maybe that's why they were stoked. But that's good to hear because I still want to go to Russia. So
yeah,
it actually sounds a lot friendlier than I think the stereotype would have us believe.
Yeah, like we did this very amazing tour to a Sami village. So Sami villages are these nomadic reindeer hunters, and they live all up in the Lapland, so at the top of Finland and Sweden, and they still live up there. They're not nomadic anymore. They have settled in one place, but they still like they don't have technology. They live in like their reindeer huts. They have these beautiful bright clothes that they make themselves, and their culture was amazing. And we went with a tour company to go, and we still talk to the 2 people who run that tour company all the time because they was just so nice, and they were stoked to have 2 Kiwis and like along with them.
Yeah.
And we built a friendship with them, and we're still like friends, and we chat on Instagram and stuff like that. So we made friends up in the northernmost city in the Arctic Circle in Russia, and they were so nice.
That's amazing. Like I'm really glad to hear that because I think bringing the world together and encouraging people to try something that's a little bit different is it's a good idea. You don't happen to remember the name of the company, do you? The travel company?
It is called Go Murmansk, I think, or Go Aurora Murmansk. Something like that. It's this lovely couple.
I'll get the name from you later. Yeah, because I honestly, like, once all of this is over, I would love to, obviously, I had a lot of travel plans this year.
Yeah.
As it turns out, this year is not the best year for traveling, but I mean, it's not the best year to have 2 years in the UK either, but that's amazing. So you're in Turkey at the moment. So what's next on the travel itinerary?
Yeah, so I've just come off the bat of doing 3 months on a motorbike in Europe. So we did European summer on a motorbike.
Are you vlogging this? Are you blogging this? Because you should. This is all amazing.
I know. So I love to write. I'm a big writer. I've built the website and everything. But traveling's actually like very full on. Like we don't have a lot of down days. And we were working online as well. So we were doing like an online customer service job. So I was traveling and working and trying to actually enjoy the places we were in. So I have so many stories and so much to say, but I'm now going on another trip, but I'll be in the UK for most of winter and there is nothing to do. So I'm hoping that I can finally buckle down and write all of my cool stories that I've been able to experience.
Go and meet up with Nadia and Chloe and any of the other UK people. I don't know. Do they know you're in the UK? I don't think they know.
They do. So our friend Amy Mizak competed in Miss Universe Great Britain.
Amy.
Yeah, she competed last year, and Noki, Chloe, and I all travelled to Newcastle in Wales to support her.
Oh, Newcastle in Wales?
Not Newcastle, Newport.
Oh, I was going to say, because we've got a point of confusion here because all the names that are in the UK exist in Australia as well.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, there's a Newcastle in England, but there's one in Wales as well. Like, there's two.
There is a Newcastle in England, but it's in where is it? Is it Northern Ireland? I think, Northern Ireland has a Newcastle.
Does it?
Yeah.
Nadia, help us. Nadia is watching. Nadia, where are the Newcastles?
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know my UK geography at all.
So I'm currently in Turkey, and I'm actually on my way to America, which is this is again a wild story because I'm full of them. All my traveling has been bizarre. Because of pageants, I am actually an egg donor with a company in America. another New Zealand pageant girl was a donor with them before me, and then they kind of like recruited me through my international pageants that I've done. And I got matched with a couple in December of last year. I had to wait for 3 natural cycles before I could go over in March, and then March, everything fell apart. So
perfect timing.
Yeah, so I matched them in December. They waited 3 months, and then they had to wait another 9 months until now. And the window of opportunity to get to America is closing again. So as much as I don't feel great about going to America at this like exact moment in time, it's not about me. Like, these people have obviously already waited years, and now they've had to wait even longer because of all of this. And I kind of just want to give them their little miracle, which is the reason I do it in the first place. So I'm on my way to America at the moment.
Okay, so I mean, Nadia is saying there's one in England. There's one,
the Newcastle upon Tyne, I think it's called. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. There are too many Newcastles.
There are too many. Yeah.
Have you? I guess you probably can't answer this until it's happened, but I didn't know. I thought the egg donor was kind of like putting it into a bank, and then similar to a sperm donor, you look it up afterwards. Have you given any thought to what it will feel like for you to know that potentially, in a way, I don't know if it's the right way to say it, but it's kind of your baby, like someone else. Yeah. Does that feel odd at all? Because I've never even had to think about that. Obviously.
Well, I've been signed up for 3 years, so I've thought about it a lot, and I talk about it a lot. So it's things I've talked about. Part of the process, you have a lot of appointments leading up to this, is you have psychiatric evaluations, because a lot of people don't really think it through, or there have been people who have done it and then in a few years gone, this is so weird. But I think for me, it takes more than DNA to be a parent. I had a bit of a rocky childhood myself, so I'm a strong believer and it takes more than DNA to be a mom or to be a dad. To me, the fact that it's going to technically share half of my DNA means nothing. Like, I don't know them, they don't know me. They have their 2 loving parents, and that's their family. But my person did have to let me know that with things like Ancestry.com and stuff, where people you send off your DNA and you find out who you're related to, it used to be very easy to not find who your donor parents were. Nowadays, in like 18 years, if this child decides that they want to use Ancestry.com, there's a decent chance they would be able to find me. So then they were talking through are you going to feel okay if they do turn up in like 22 years and want to meet you? And in that sense, I think I would, because it would just be curiosity, I have thought about it. And I think for me, the cost that it comes to for me is so minimal, given the amazing thing I get to do for someone else.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's an amazing gift that you're giving to a young couple that I imagine for one reason or another can't have their own child. It's just honestly an issue that I've actually never thought about. Now that I'm thinking about it, like to think that in 20 years you could be looked up by your biological child, I guess that's a little trippy. It is
wild, but I think people don't talk about it enough either. Like, I know in New Zealand, I have a friend who did it recently, and she was talking about it a lot. And the waiting list, there's like 4,000 people signed up to wait. And I don't think women really have considered the idea of doing egg donations, because it's not something anyone talks about. And I love to talk about I get in deep. I'm like that friend who will always talk about, I like to talk about racism and, all the different phobias and mental health. And I talk about all the good stuff that people don't want to tackle.
All the juicy topics.
All the juicy things. So, this is just add another notch in my belt of things that I'm kind of like advocating for. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of deep stuff to talk about in 2020. I mean, if you want to talk about racism, do you have a spare few 5 years?
It's been a doozy.
That's one way of putting it. I mean, in a way, you're heading to America. When are you going to be in America?
For the elections. I was going to say,
avoid the elections.
Texas. I'm in Texas from the 21st of October until the 6th of December. I actually have a shirt with me on this trip, and it's like a white t-shirt, and it says men shouldn't be making laws about women's bodies. And my boyfriend's like, don't wear that in Texas. Don't put it on. And
anywhere else in the world, I I would say, you know, you're right to, and it is your right to wear whatever you want. But
Yeah.
given some of the stuff I've seen in Texas, yeah, I don't know how receptive some of them might be to that. I completely agree with it though, and I've seen that. Like, I think it's stupid that men should be making rules about what women can and cannot do with their bodies, and it drives me insane.
Yeah.
But 2020 has also taught me
yeah.
that there are some people who are not open to discussing ideas such as this.
I think one of my favorite parts about that is, especially when like Alabama and stuff are trying to put through some of the, sorry, I talk about this stuff a lot, so like I can deep dive. When Alabama would put through that very hectic, they were trying to, so there's Roe versus Wade, right, which made abortion legal in America, but states can still put in very, very strict, can put in their restrictions to basically minimize it. They can close down clinics and stuff like that.
Basically make it impossible.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that were voting for it, I don't know if it's like senators or whatever it is in there, it ended up, a report came out that showed how many of those people had mistresses and got their mistresses to abort their babies, their love children. So you have these old white men in power who are getting their mistresses to abort their babies while then turning around and saying, but no one else should have that right. So love the hypocrisy. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not an isolated case in America because, so senators, you're right. In America, very similar issues with the meat industry, with the dairy industry. For example, that food pyramid that I don't know if you were taught in New Zealand as a child, but basically it's got, you know, dairy, I don't know what's at the top, but junk food's at the top. And then, 2 serves of meat. And at the bottom is cereal. Yeah. That food pyramid was paid for, came up by the cereal companies. It's got nothing to do with health. It was paid for by them. And that's why fossil fuel is being blocked, like green initiatives are being blocked, health initiatives are being blocked. It's because they have a vested, pharmaceuticals, they all have a vested interest. And because it costs so much to run in the US, they need the backing of powerful people. And if you're backed by someone who's like the gun lobby, for example, you're going to have to push forward guns. Yeah. Which is why a lot of these issues in America, most people don't want them, but they still get through, or they do want change and it doesn't get through because of the way it's set up.
Yeah, so, the people with money, I think, get to control the conversation. It's the same idea as victors get to write history, you know? It's, Yeah.
Well, you're going to be in America. I know. I got to say, I don't normally discuss politics, but since you're not currently in pageant, so maybe after this you shouldn't be.
Talk about controversy.
Exactly. But I'm going to say hopefully there's a change in America, and that will lead us into a happier and more united 2021. Because I'm sick to death of 2020 and the divisiveness. It's just got to stop. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, in Cappadocia we met these two couples from America, and they were talking about how they work in healthcare in New York City. So New York City obviously had the biggest lockdown. And they were talking about how there were like refrigerator trucks. They closed up a whole street and put refrigerator trucks for, you know, the unfortunate. Yes. And, you know, they had to see firsthand what was happening and then had to look at their president talk about, you know, how it's not serious and downplay it and things like that.
It's a hoax.
Yeah. And they were saying, as horrible as these 4 years has been, it has been such a call to action for Americans. You know, like so many people, if you look at the vote, it was obviously Hillary won the popular vote. And then there was like 40-something% of eligible voters who didn't vote. And so obviously they're looking for a huge surge of voter turnout. And yes, it's had to take something very horrible, but it's made that conversation, you know, it's got the conversation going. People waking up to a lot of things, realizing what's important to them, what they need to do to actually, you know, be the change they want to see. So they were very optimistic, you know, trying to find that silver lining in the situation. But I think that is true, you know, like sometimes it takes something, it takes something like that sometimes to make you go, okay, something needs to change. I need to actually step up and do something.
Yeah. And that is a silver lining to, I think, what's been, again, not to get too political about it, but I mean, the last 4 years in America, and because America leads a free world, you know, we're all seeing it. We all know what's happening.
Yeah, we all deserve opinions on it as well, I think.
Yeah, but this idea of, you know, having a bit of respect, even if you disagree with someone, or, you know, trying to unite people rather than dividing people, even a basic concept such as telling the truth. it's just taken such a beating. I really hope there's a change. Again, it's not, for me, it's not about politics. For me, it's really not. It's about human decency, and I think a lot of that has been lost. Yeah, in 2020, it's just gone. It's gone completely out the window. So I hope it. I hope you have an amazing time in America. You picked an interesting time to go. I know I had someone who's just booked in for an interview, and they literally booked on an election day, and they messaged me going, oh, I didn't know it was on election day. Do you want me to reschedule? I'm like, people will probably want to watch something other than the election.
Yeah.
But Kiwi in Texas on election day, that's got to be a blog or a vlog.
It'll be a wild time, I think, either way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're in Istanbul, and then you're going to America, and then back to the UK?
Mm-hmm. Back to the UK for winter, yeah.
That's... I was going to say that's the best time, but I mean, UK is pretty miserable at the best of times. How much longer are you in the UK for?
My visa runs out on June 22nd, I think. And then I've almost finished Europe. I've almost been to every single country. So we've kind of got so I'm going to get my motorbike license. So we can hopefully ride our own bikes. And we're going to just finish and do the Nordic loop. So go up through Norway, and because there are some beautiful roads up there. So we're going to backpack up through like Norway and Sweden and Finland, and then pick up the Estonia and Latvia, and then we'll be done with Europe. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who's done every country in Europe. That's amazing.
I don't think we set out to do it, and then we realized we were so close to doing it that it would be rude not to. So, yeah.
We're here, might as well do it anyway. It's rude to leave out two countries. So.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow. That's genuinely amazing. So remind me, are you actually blogging this or vlogging this, or you're going to catch up when you're like in America or UK, you said?
I have written some things, but
Right.
Sorry.
That was loud.
I have written some things, and I've built a website, but I haven't had the time to actually make it all like cohesive and run properly, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to reading it, because it's going to be amazing reading about the travels of a Kiwi who's been through every country in Europe and then going to America during election time.
Yeah. It's a bit different to your regular travel blog, I think.
It is. We probably should talk about Pageant at least for a while, because
Sorry,
just
guys,
because
got into the deep stuff very quick.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, 2020, there's not much going on in pageantry. There's a few virtual ones on, and there's still a few national ones on. Obviously, Nadia and Chloe are Miss Universe Island finalists, so, good luck to them. Yeah, but a lot has been cancelled, outright cancelled or postponed, including some of the biggest pageants in the world. So, But pageantry, how did you get into it? Tell us your pageant history.
Yeah, I love telling this story. It's a real banger.
Banger. In the UK, a banger is a sausage.
I know. It's a good one. It's a good one.
It's a cracker. It's a cracker. Yeah. Go for it.
My first pageant was Miss Auckland 2016. So Auckland's the biggest city in New Zealand, and not many places. So pageantry is not big in New Zealand. It's not like every city has a pageant. Some of them choose to. For the most part, it is just the Miss New Zealand pageant that everyone does. But my first pageant was Miss Auckland in 2016, and I did not enter myself in it. So I didn't know anything about pageants. Like, my idea of pageants at the time was the same as everyone who's not informed about pageants. You think it's vapid and it's nothing of substance, and because that's what everyone thinks until you actually are in it or know someone who's in it. And I got an email from the director of Miss Auckland thanking me for my application and inviting me for an interview. And I was like,
that's confusing.
Yeah, definitely didn't do this. Like, I was in my third year so I did mechanical engineering. So I'm in my third year at uni. I spend my free time gaming. And I get this email being like, thanks for applying to our pageant. We want you to come for an interview. And I literally emailed back and I was like, hey, thanks so much, but I think this is, gone to the wrong person. I didn't enter at all. And she sends me back the entry form, and it was someone making fun of me. So someone had entered on my behalf, and they had said things like, it's like, tell us about yourself. And it has stuck with me to this day, because I'm like, why did this person invite me to an interview? I sound horrible. But in their like about section, they were like, when I walk into a room, I know that I'm not only the most beautiful, but I'm the smartest, and that all eyes are on me. And it was like out the gate. And so it was like, obviously someone was making fun of me, and like someone clearly thought that I was like stuck up, or thought that I was like hot.
But you still made it through.
And I'm a real yes man. Yeah, I was like, I don't know why she said yes to me, because I do not sound like the kind of person you want in your pageant. I sound like, I bought that. But I'm a real yes man, and I was like, why not? So I went to the interview, and she had said after it, she'd looked through my social media and stuff, and she did think that I was someone they would want on board. So I went to the interview. Right. I got in, and I completely tanked. Like I got best in production number, which is like, because I'm a professional dancer, but that's like the only section you don't actually get any points for. So I got best in production number and like nothing else. Absolutely tanked it. Sucked. But she had said that she thought that, she thought I had potential, and she wanted to see me go through to the Miss New Zealand pageant anyway, even though I'd sucked at the Miss Auckland pageant. Like there was like a top 5, and there was like 20 girls, and I got best in the only section you don't get points for. So, it wasn't
it's going
good.
well. It's a good start.
Really good start. I'm feeling confident. But I was like, you know what? It was fun though. I learned so much. 50% of your score was like charity work, and I loved that. I loved getting into charity work. I made friends. I learned a lot about myself, and I think that's what lots of girls love about pageants, right? You make friends and you have personal growth. And I was like, I loved it. It was, I want to do it again. I love being on stage. I was a dancer like my whole life, so like I live for that on stage moment. I decided to enter Miss New Zealand. And then I ended up coming, so it was Miss World New Zealand, and I ended up coming first runner-up. So I came second in the pageant, which was massive for me, because the people who had come first, second, third, in Miss Auckland, which I tanked in, I had beaten them all in Miss New Zealand. So that was, and so that was massive for me. Like I clearly had... I think because I didn't know anything about pageants, I also went in quite naive and didn't realize how much work it was going to be. And then by the time I'd found my footing, it was too late to be playing catch up. So I really kind of came into my own in that year. I came second. I got the title of Miss Grand New Zealand, and I went to Vietnam in 2017, which is where I met my UK gal pals. And then after that, a contestant who was on Miss Intercontinental, the pageant moved 3 times that year. Like it was in Sri Lanka, and then it was somewhere else, and then they moved it to Egypt. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But the first time when they moved it, our original girl couldn't go, and then they moved it another time, and basically they asked me if I wanted to go to Miss Intercontinental as the representative. So I kind of got a 2-for-1. I got to be Miss Grand New Zealand and Miss Intercontinental New Zealand.
It
was a good deal, yeah.
2-for-1.
I got to go to both of those pageants. And then after I handed over my title, last year I was actually the manager and choreographer of Miss New Zealand, which was amazing. I feel like I was born to be a pageant mama. And I changed the pageant quite a bit as well, I think. I think having gone to 2 international pageants, I had a better feel for how to kind of modernize it and bring in some other cool new elements to make it, and when you run a pageant, you're in it for the girls, you're in it for your contestants. You want them to have that growth and that amazing experience and feel nurtured and empowered the way that you did. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And now that I'm here, I've been doing just some behind the scenes works, trying to pick up some other franchises for us and doing some social media things and helping. I'm going to be helping coach some of the girls get ready for the international. So we had our national pageant a couple of weeks ago. And then, when I come back, I will step back into doing the manager choreographer stuff. So, yay.
That's fascinating, because it's like you got into pageantry and then fairly quickly were thrust into the limelight, because Grand is one of the biggest ones in the world, considered, top 5. And then you also had Intercontinental very quickly. So it's almost like
I got to clean up some Grand Slams. Yeah.
It's like so can you, that's a unique kind of experience. And then also the fact that you're an engineer and a gamer coming into it would give you a whole different kind of perspective to the typical pageant girl, which I think is an amazing thing. But can you just, not to say which one's better or worse, but just as an example, can you compare the grand international experience to the intercontinental experience? Because obviously I would imagine they're quite different. So how do those two systems compare?
Grand for me was like super glam Hollywood. Like that's what it was like for us, you know, like we had literal paparazzi that would be on like motorbikes coming alongside your buses, and everything was glitz, glam, ritz, 5-star, everything. Like it was luxury. Like you were treated like you were an A-lister, and it was all planned meticulously as well, you know, like all the activities. It was also, we would like sleep sometimes for 2 hours a night if you're lucky, and you know you sleep for 2 hours and you wake up and then it's like 3 a.m. in the morning and you haven't slept and you're trying to like put a contact into your burning eye and like clip in your hair extensions in the dark.
And it's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
3 weeks, I think it was. 3 weeks. It was actually almost 4, I think. It was like 3.5 weeks. So it's you're very run down, but that's how you make your friends for life. You know, you're all in it together. And I'm a professional
You're all
Karen.
crying together.
You're all crying. I'm a professional Karen, so I was like the get things done girl. And they have this funny video of us trying to order a smoothie at like 10 p.m. in the kitchen, telling me that like it's closed, and I was like, but I can order, and it's literally me doubling down on the phone, and we got the smoothie. The smoothie arrived, but I ordered it, like the girl was feeling so down, and we had ordered smoothies the other day later, and then I think they had cleaned their blender and didn't want the blender. And I'm not normally a Karen because I've worked in hospitality a lot, so I'm not normally a Karen in that respect, because
you know what it's like to deal with Karens.
It's really hard. But I'm not a Karen like the like middle-aged lady Karen. I am more of a look, we had it yesterday at 10 p.m. and I try to reason with them, but it wasn't my finest moment, but it was funny. We hadn't had any sleep and stuff, and I was really good friends with the staff, so it was like okay. But yeah, in those situations, it's like 3 weeks of like absolute turmoil as well. So like I got really badly fat shamed. Like I almost wanted to go home because there's one photo of me that has 17,000 comments of people saying that I was obese and overweight and mispregnant, and that it was a joke that they sent such a fat girl to the pageant.
That is one thing that I have to say, and again, we talked about politics, which you're not supposed to, but in terms of grand, what I don't like is at the internationals, they flash your measurements up. Now, I really dislike that, because I don't see what bearing that has on, and after this I probably won't interview anyone from the grand system again, but for what it is, I don't see what bearing that has on your ability to be a role model. I really don't. Yeah,
I actually went on a big crusade about this after I got all of my comments and stuff, and then I remember they didn't tell us that they were going to be announcing our measurements or anything like that. And you walk out for swimsuit.
They flash them up on stage.
Yeah.
It's flashed for the whole world to see.
And they announce them. So as you're walking.
They announce them.
Yeah. You're walking like along poolside, and you're like, you know, trying not to trip and like look your best. And then they are saying out loud, and all you can hear is them just saying your measurements at you. And you're like, wow, thanks. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, I went on a big crusade about it, because I was like, my stomach doesn't affect my ability to be a good person or to compete in this competition. It's completely irrelevant. You know? But I think it was the year after that, they had that bit of a scandal with photoshopping girls to make them all look like they had abs in their swimsuit photos. That was, and that's just to me, on a personal level, offensive, you know, but on a grander scale, really damaging to young women, you know, like.
Absolutely.
So it's damaging to the girls that you're photoshopping, and then it's damaging to your like millions of fans that are looking at this and going, is this the only version of a woman that's pretty? So I have a lot of beef with photoshopping people to look different to what they are.
Well, as you should be. Like I find that completely indefensible. I mean, you know, you can discuss where you draw the line, but, you know, changing colors and things like that, or photoshopping like a wire out of the background, fine. But changing the shape of a woman's body, it's not. I don't agree with that. So I mean, look, that's grand, and the people that I know who've been to grand, I mean, they've had aspects of it they've loved, as you mentioned, to be completely fair. And then there's parts of it that, some of them disagree with, some of them don't.
Yeah.
I've always had a big disagreement with the measurements thing. That's just for me.
And I think I love that you're doing this whole pageant launch site that you're putting together that gets a bit more transparent with pageants, because I don't think people talk about the negative things enough, and I think my reasoning for why I think people don't talk about the negative stuff is pageants get such a bad rap from people who don't know anything about pageants, right? And so when you're trying to go, no, but pageants are amazing, you're only throwing out the good stuff, right? Because you're trying so hard to convince someone that pageants are amazing. But that means you've taken one version of a one-sided conversation and made it the other version of the one-sided conversation.
And neither are helpful.
Neither are helpful. Then people go into the delusion of thinking, oh my God, it's amazing. There's going to be a sisterhood. It's empowerment. And there is a sisterhood, but it's never a complete sisterhood. You are going to meet some people who are going to make you want to claw your skin off because they're going to make you feel so bad about yourself, right?
Absolutely. But again, to be fair, that's everything in life, right? There's never any 100% good people. So to just say that it's perfect, it's amazing, and that anything that says otherwise is toxic, I, again, had a very, very big personal issue with that, because I don't think it's toxic to bring up issues that need to be resolved. And I also think that if 2020 has proven anything, is that we all need to speak our opinion. Yes, we need to be respectful about it, hopefully, but to just stay silent and then to have one person at the top who's bullying everyone else into submission, that's a real issue.
So when I ran the pageant last year, Miss Grand decided to host themselves in Venezuela. And our three big titles we hand out at our pageant are Miss World, Miss Grand International, and Miss International. And then we also have Intercontinental and Tourism International, which go to the rest of our top 5. And we made the decision we were the first country that publicly dropped and denounced Miss Grand for hosting it in Venezuela. And then we were followed by the UK team who dropped it. And I remember they actually reached out to us on Instagram, to show us support, thank you for speaking out about it. And we were very vocal, yes, going to a pageant is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and especially something as big and well known as Grand, but jeopardizing people's safety just for the sake of going to that pageant, to me, that's morally incorrect. I
just want to pipe in here, because people may not know, I completely agree with you, and this is probably where we first connected, was because I did a video about Miss Grand and Venezuela and not thinking it was the best decision. And to be clear, it's not being sensationalist, as someone said that I was. For the UK, at least, Venezuela is on the no-fly zone. You're not supposed to go unless it's for essential activity. And I don't see how you can argue that pageantry is an essential activity. So I had an issue with it.
I think part of our issue as well is in our year we had Tia. She was beautiful. She came second to Maria, which was Miss Peru. And because their whole thing is stop the war and violence, right? That's their whole campaign. And she gave her top 10 speech, and she spoke specifically about how she had lost her father in the the civil fighting that's happening in Venezuela. And
actually, Chloe mentioned this.
Yeah, she was heartbroken about it. And it's how can you honor this woman, and Miss Grand loved her. How can you honor her? And then it was almost like spitting in the face of that and going, we know it's dangerous and you lost someone who's the most important thing to you in your life, but we're going to bring 80 girls from around the world and, I'm sure it'll be fine. I thought it was irresponsible and immoral to do. And so for us to drop the Miss Grand franchise was very easy for us. And we were happy to be outspoken about it because it was just the right thing to do.
Yeah, which, again, I've got to say, we could do more within the industry, people doing the right thing, even if you get blowback from it. Because, the UK director lost that franchise because she didn't send her delegates over. And I'm like, well, that says something about, your strength of character and doing the right thing.
They told us if we didn't send girls, they wouldn't give it back to us, and we were like, well, then we don't want to be a part of it. We don't want to be a part of a system that is willing to put girls at risk. Yeah,
and I completely agree, because in my mind, the industry has to put the welfare of the girls first.
Yeah,
but it's just that's black and white. There's no other way around it. It's not the welfare of the directors or the sponsors. Welfare of the girls first. That's grand. So obviously, Again, this is not a typical interview. We've delved into it a little bit here. But back up for a sec. So what about your experience in Intercontinental?
I think in our year, we kind of got duped a bit. So because Intercontinental changed location a few times, they really scrambled to get together Egypt. So there weren't really a lot of plans put in place. Like, obviously, we still had activities and stuff like that. But most of our time at Intercontinental was actually spent just doing promotional work for the hotels, because obviously the hotels have sponsored us, you know. So most of the days were spent just filming promotional content for them and stuff. And there were some activities, but, you know, they weren't as many as I think other pageants were. And then the year after, they went to Philippines, you know, and they had dress designers who custom made dresses for the girls, and they had live TV performances. And I think they really got to swing back into that glitz and glam of what Intercontinental was supposed to be. Whereas in our year, I think it was like just a scramble to get the pageant together and like actually put it on. Yeah, and I mean, it was still a great experience. Like, Egypt was beautiful, and obviously I made really good friends there as well. Again, with the UK girls, it was like UK, Canada, and USA. So by both pageants, our like little group just randomly like gravitated together. But yeah, I think Intercontinental definitely was it definitely felt like the lesser of the two pageants, just because of how the other one was so well put together and planned and glam and very professional. And this one, while I loved it, I think, and it was no fault of their own either, because it was their countries had fallen through on them. So I just like, it was amazing that they managed to put the pageant together anyway. But yeah, I think they definitely stepped back up again the next years when they got into like Philippines and stuff. So I think it was just a bit of a lull in the years for us. Yeah,
I guess any system can have, you know, an off year. Let's put it that way. And I guess if you've had to shift your international pageant twice, and that's far from ideal in the preparation, isn't it? So just to sum that up, I think the interesting point, and I'd love to pick your brain on this, for a girl who is looking at doing an international pageant, because sometimes you don't have to compete domestically. Sometimes you get appointed titles, or you're sent directly by the director, or you're actually invited by the international pageant itself. What are the 1, 2, or 3 things, let's say, that you would say to the girl, look, you have to do your research on these things to know whether A, at a fundamental level, it's going to be safe, and then B, also, like, are you actually going to enjoy it? Because those two could be quite different conversations.
Yeah, I think definitely talk to your past title holders. You know, like, and I also think you have a duty as a title holder to when someone else, even if it hasn't, you know, it's been 3 years since you had the title, if someone gets the title that you had, I think it is part of your duty to talk to them and help prepare them on, this is my experience. And, you know, so yeah, I think talk to past title holders is definitely a big one for me. A second one is, I think controversy is big, you know, like, and you can find out a lot of, I can't remember what pageant it was last year.
Global?
Global. And it was, it like fell apart on stage, you know, the whole thing fell apart.
Badly. And in the middle of the live, it was cut off.
Yeah, and because it was Mexico's basically saying, you know, it's our country, you have to make our girl win. And it was all that kind of stuff. And I think if you didn't know about it at the time, you know, I haven't heard anything about it for months. I couldn't even remember which one it was off the top of my head. So it would be very easy for a girl to now get a title of Miss Global and just go, wow, I get to go to Miss Global. And they don't know anything about how there was like a lot of
controversy.
Controversy.
It didn't go well, let's put it that way.
Yeah, look into your controversy, you know, and that's hopefully also something that if you speak to a past title holder, you would get that information from them as well. And then look at the country. Look at what's happening in there. Your country, like in the UK, like gov.uk, you can go to every single country on there and it'll show you any issues, like any warnings it has, like even really plain things. Like if you look at France, there's a constant warning in there saying that they have a lot of protests, you know, like a lot of protests and riots can break out. And so, yeah, I think do your research by looking at your country's official statement on what that country's situation is.
That's perfect. I know, for example, in the UK, it's a Foreign Commonwealth. I think it's called the Foreign Commonwealth Office, the FCO, and that's where I found out that, you know, Venezuela is no-fly zone. So, okay, yeah, that's perfect. Because that is a huge issue when you're flying internationally. And coming from a country like New Zealand or Australia, I think for us, it's kind of hard to imagine a country that's as much turmoil as Venezuela.
Yeah.
It's just because we could never imagine that. I mean, I have a hard time imagining. I had a hard time imagining Melbourne having a curfew. So
Yeah.
for me to imagine a country where there are that many people being killed by its own government,
Yeah.
it's hard to believe. So doing the research
Yeah.
becomes even more important.
And I think you owe it to that country as a sign of respect to research it as well. Like, don't just, like, if your national director is telling you, no, it's fine, it's blown up in the news, don't worry about it, you're going to be safe. You can't just take that as law. You owe it to this country you're going to learn about its people. You owe it to that country
Absolutely, yeah.
to know what's happening in the streets and how they're getting repressed. Like, it's it's like a very simple sign of respect to go, I have decided to take the risk to come to your country. But yeah, I'm aware that last weekend you had 2,000 people die in the streets in 2 days. And I'm aware that, families are being torn apart. And, at least if you are going to make the decision to go, be educated. Don't be a vapid person who hasn't bothered to look into what's going on.
Well, that's well said.
Sorry.
I mean, if you're going to... No, I really mean that, because that was basically my thought process is, yes, you get to go there and be glitz and glam and you're wearing a $10,000 gown, but then you're walking in the streets under guard and, there are these homeless families who've maybe had the mother and father killed by its own government.
Exactly. It's very easy to sit pretty on your throne, like on your high horse when you're in your jewels and your dress with your bodyguards. It's very easy. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what I say is the definition of a role model. You do need to do your research, and you, as you said, it's a sign of respect. Even with the beliefs and cultures of a country could be wildly different to Australia, America, UK, New Zealand, and very often they are. And just to assume that everything is the same as you, I think it's a height of arrogance. So I think
that's the word I was after. Arrogance. Yeah, it is arrogant.
Yeah. Okay, well, we've talked about a lot of stuff that I normally probably wouldn't talk about. It must be the Aussie and the Kiwi getting together, and we haven't sworn yet. That's a good thing.
I know. I almost said it before, though, and I bleeped myself. So.
Okay. Look, there's a lot of other stuff we can talk about. We'll probably get you on a podcast if we can, and we can talk about the rest of it.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to move us... No, but it's been really important. So genuinely, that's been amazing. We've almost been on for an hour, so I do want to move towards a close. Just before we do, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to for supporting you along your pageant journey or just life in general?
Yes. So I think my number one pageant thank you would go to Jess Tyson. So you might know her. She came 6th in Miss World 2 years ago, and she was Miss World Oceania. And before then, she went to Miss International. And she is this amazing woman. She started an incredible charity as her work called Brave, which is basically she helps educate and bring resources to school age and young New Zealanders who are dealing with sexual abuse. And so she is an incredible force of nature. She's a formidable woman, and she has been my rock through a lot of pageantry. So I've not gone into a lot of drama, but I've had a lot of bullying in my New Zealand pageant career, and she has stuck with me and through everything. She has. And when I ran the pageant, she was the current title holder, so we worked very closely together. And yeah, she is my absolute sister of the crown. She's picked me up through thick and thin. So big thank you to her. And then my other pageant girls are my OG grand, Chloe, Nadia, Amy, Noki, and Taylor Kessler in USA, and Natalie in Canada. Those girls, we were inseparable. So it was a really tough journey in grand, and I don't think we could have done it without each other. Those are my pageant thank yous. But I also have an incredible friend, Mark, who I met in Paris in the streets in summer. And he loves pageants and he loves all of that. And we just literally, he saw us in the street. He liked Matt's tattoos, and we just hung out with him in Paris for 2 weeks. And he's amazing. And him and his gorgeous dog, his little chihuahua, Ray, are watching. So I said I would say hi. So hi.
Okay. All right. Well, those are the thank yous. Yes. Let's get these final 10 questions done. It's not a speed round, but if you want to answer as quickly as you can, then go for it. All right. Question the first. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word? I'm like a goldfish. My memories not very large right now, but my most recent favorite word is paraphernalia.
Okay.
Try
That's not
saying
one
it.
I've had before.
Say
Paraphernalia.
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 It rolls off the tongue nicely, don't you think? Paraphernalia.
I'm not liking it. It makes me feel a little queasy for some reason. Paraphernalia. Anyway,
Paraphernalia.
that's good.
It's a good word.
Paraphernalia. Question 2. What is your least favorite word?
So because my name is Meg, I have a bit of a personal vendetta with this word, and it's smegma. The word smegma. If you don't know what it is, Google it, but be warned. It's something that happens to unhygienic boys. That's what smegma is.
Oh dear. Okay, I'm not going to read that. I'm not going to say it. I've read it. It's too late.
My uni friends would call me Smeg and Smegma just because that's what my name is like. And it's a gross word. It's a gross thing. And because it's associated with my name, I gotta hate it.
Let's move on. That's forever emblazoned in my memory. I don't want to ever see that again. Question 3. In life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
Trying new things. I'm a hobby collector. If you spoke to anyone who knows me, I'm that person who's like, oh yeah, I've done that, or I just love to collect and try new things. So yeah, picking up a new hobby. I want to be one of those people who, if you've watched The Good Place, Tahani, have you watched The Good Place? Very funny show. Basically, okay. She decides she doesn't want to move on into the light until she's tried every single skill that there is to try. And that's me. That's my goal. I like to try all of the things.
Love it. Okay, that was what turns you on. What turns you off?
Oh, bigotry. Racism, sexism, homophobia, all of the gnarly stuff.
You must have been really turned off in 2020 then.
Oh yeah, I got a reputation for being that friend this year. I've called everyone out on everything, and I've always done it privately. In conversations, I will call someone out for an inappropriate comment, but I've started to do it very publicly now. So.
Yeah. Well, you give people 1 or 2 chances, and at the end, it's like, well, you revealed who you are, so now you're going to give it publicly. I think that's fair. Okay. Yeah. Question 5: What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, my boyfriend's laugh. That's my favorite sound.
What sort of laugh does he have?
He's quite a deep laugh, like that Kiwi sort of laugh, but it's like a real kind of bellow. It's very you can't not feel happy when you hear it. It's great. I love his laugh.
Sounds good to me. Okay, question 6: What sound or noise do you hate?
Okay, don't get me wrong. I love kids. I'm a kid person. I worked at a primary school for years. They are my people. Kids and we understand each other. Babies, I'm not a baby person. I don't think they're cute. I don't think they offer me anything of value. And it's when you're in a restaurant and there's a baby screaming, and full respect to the parents because they have it so much worse than me having to listen to their baby cry for 5 minutes. But something about babies crying when I'm at a restaurant, it really, doesn't make me clucky at all. So
that's fair enough.
Kids. I love them from the age 2 upwards. Talk to me. Then you're my pal.
Yeah, you're similar to me. I enjoy interacting with them when I can actually start talking to them. Before that, it's we don't have much to talk about here. So
yeah, and
I'll leave them.
Yeah, people are always oh, it's got the father's nose, and it's babies all look the same. They have no features that mean anything yet. It has a baby's nose. It doesn't look like either of you. Yeah.
I don't get it. I've never suffered from cluckiness, so I'll go with you on that one. Question 7: If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I debate this one quite often, and mine is teleportation, because you can get a lot out of teleportation. For number 1, obviously free travel. That's great. If you want to get more devious, you can steal things and be rich. You could get away with stealing stuff. So that you've got your money, you've got your free travel. I just think you could be a fly in the wall in so many situations as well. So you could get yourself that knowledge. Yeah, I just think you'd be the most powerful person if you could teleport, and no one could capture you. What are you going to do? When you find out I can teleport, see you later. I'm gone. So yeah, teleportation. I saw Nadia said invisibility for sneaking onto planes, and you were like, why not just teleport? And I was like, teleport. Yeah.
As I said to Nadia, I'm like, people who say they want to be invisible, they're always the ones you have to watch out for. Because like, why do you want to be invisible? Because you don't want me to see what you're doing. So,
Yeah.
But I'll go with you on the teleportation. I mean, I got to say, I would love to fly, but teleportation is a lot faster, a lot easier. Okay, question 8. What job or occupation other than your own would you most like to attempt?
So I'm currently studying for my TEFL, which is like your English teaching certification. So you can teach online and stuff like that. And I've been looking at programs in like Tanzania and like all down Africa. So I want to get my level 5 diploma in English teaching and go teach down through places in Africa and Asia. So that's what I would like to do. Yeah.
Okay. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Hot air balloon pilot. Anything with height. Or those people on the side of skyscrapers that have to clean the windows. Hard pass from me. Don't want to be dangling off them. Yeah. So, but hot air balloon pilot, I think, takes the #1 spot. Don't want to do that.
So, it's like I told you, a hot air balloon is literally wicker propelled by burning gas.
Oh, yeah, I felt that. That was a very real thought going through my head while I was up there. So...
I actually think, I don't think I want to do it. It's like I told you, I've done skydiving, I've flown planes, but this idea that, because I just think if I lean over the basket, then because it's a balloon, it will tip and then I'll go over it. I'm not okay with that.
And at least skydiving is over quite quickly. You know, you only have to be brave for like a few minutes. I had to be brave for an hour up in that balloon, and I succeeded in maybe 10 minutes of bravery.
Something that's over and done with quickly is much preferable to something you need to endure for an hour. It probably seemed like 5 years for you. It's like, let me down, let me down, let me down, let me down, let me down.
I literally, at one point, I was like, I just want to go down, I just want to go down, I just want to go down. And Matt's like, there are other people trying to enjoy their flights. Like, I love you, but shh. So. I
love you, but whose side are you on here? There was Richard Branson had a TV show very briefly because Trump had The Apprentice back in the day, and as a challenge, they had 2 people, and you were in a hot air balloon, and this woman needed to climb up the side of the hot air balloon onto the top, and where they had like a cup of tea, where Richard Branson and her had a cup of tea on top of a hot air balloon. So if you think your ordeal was bad, imagine having to get out of the basket, climb up a rope ladder, the side of a hot air balloon whilst it's in the air, and then have a cup of tea on top of the hot air balloon. So no.
No. No.
You've reminded me of that. Oh, well, there you go. It's good to know that not everyone, hot air balloon, it's amazing that someone's like, nah, never doing it again. Worst experience in my life.
Worst experience.
Okay. Final question, and maybe somewhat appropriately, it's about God, since you obviously had a near-death experience. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
There are people who have been dying to see you. Oh, that was a pun! That was such a good pun!
Oh, I thought you did it on purpose. What you...
No,
how could you not know that was a pun?
Well, because you say you're dying to see someone. I do love puns though, and I should have taken credit for it. I should have played that cool, because I
thought that was what you were going for. You ruined it by saying, "Oh, that was a pun."
Well, to be fair, I paused. If you just, when you turn this into one of your videos, crop off the moment where I act like when I say I didn't mean it, crop it off, and then we're all good.
Yeah, except it's going to go from deadly serious to us both like crapping ourselves with laughter, so it's not going to work. Oh wow! I thought that's almost like that's the best pun ever, and you delivered it in such a deadpan voice, and it's like because you didn't realize it was a pun. Okay. Well, I feel like we lost the moment there. Anyway, look, that was a fascinating conversation. I always knew there was a reason I should interview a Kiwi. Now I know.
Oh yeah.
So, look, that's about it. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great getting into some of the deep stuff there, digging our claws in.
Yeah, well, it's stuff that a lot of pageant competitors won't touch, which I do understand. But with all due respect, it needs to be discussed. Hiding it behind the shadows, I think 2020 has proven not discussing things and not taking action is not a viable alternative.
Yeah, and I think I get to speak from a place of privilege, obviously multiple ways, a place of privilege, but in terms of pageantry, is I'm out. You know, I'm not going to compete again. I don't have to be worried that something I'm saying about a system is going to turn around and negatively impact me. So I can speak a bit more freely about things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's similar to me. It's like no one's got leverage over us. So, yeah, so we'll have to continue this discussion at another time because there's lots of other stuff to unpack. But look,
and have a games night. I think we're due for a games
night.
Yes,
we are. We didn't talk about games. I knew if we started, we'd still be here for another hour. So I'm going to leave that for another time, Meg. But I'm going to thank everyone for watching, whether it's live or on the replay. Meg, I'll keep you on the line for just a sec as I discussed. Also hang out with the audience. But thanks everyone for watching, and we will speak to you again next time.
Thanks.
Hey, it's Adrian again. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to head up to pageantlaunch.com to join the launch team for our pageant review site. All you have to do is enter your email address. It's completely free. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with your friends and follow us on all our socials. Thanks, and see you next time.